Hebrew has a complicated relationship with its vowels, and a lot of non-Hebrew speakers, as well as some Hebrew speakers, are somewhat confused about what that relationship is like. The first question I'd like to answer is, does modern spoken Hebrew have vowels? And the answer is yes. Listen to this sample. לפי כל חוקי התעופה הידועים, אין שום אפשרות שדבורה תוכל לעוף. הכנפיים שלה קטנות מכדי להרים את הגוף הקטן והשמן שלה מעל האדמה. It's pretty obvious that there's quite a few vowels there. Modern Hebrew has 5 distinct vowel phonemes. Shar, sher, shir, shor, shur. So yes, modern Hebrew has 5 vowels. Question 1, done. The second question I'd like to answer is, does modern written Hebrew have vowels? And the answer to that is a little more involved. Modern written Hebrew uses 22 letters, some of which change shape when they're at the end of a word. Each and every one of these letters represents, ideally, somewhere between 1 or 2 consonants, but also sometimes 0. In some earlier, older forms of Hebrew, each letter probably had exactly one singular consonant sound associated with it. But languages change and evolve, and writing systems sometimes don't catch up. When a letter is in the middle of a word, most of the time there will be a vowel sound after it, and when a letter is at the end of a word, most of the time there won't be one. In the first word, the pei at the beginning of the word has an eh vowel attached to it, and the samech in the middle also has an eh vowel attached to it, but the lamed at the end doesn't have any vowel attached to it, so it just kinda hangs out there at the end of a word. So we get pesel. In the second word, we have a very similar situation. The kaf at the beginning has an a vowel, and the shin in the middle has an e vowel, and the resh at the end has no vowel, so we get kasher. There are exceptions to this, of course. In this word, the first letter, mem, has an a vowel attached to it, but the next letter, chet, has no vowel, so it just kind of clusters up with the shin after it, which has an e vowel. Then the last bet has no vowel, so it again just kind of hangs out. Mem with a, chet with nothing, shin with e, and bet with nothing. Machshev. There's also a way to consonants intensify this by adding a kaf at the end. We took the same word, machshev, but the brand spanking new kaf we added is one of the few cases of a letter at the end of a word that does have a vowel attached. So it's not machshevch, but rather machshevcha. Now, you'll notice that in these examples I gave, there's basically no vowels being written down at all. Every single one of these letters represents a consonant, just like I promised. So far, so good. But there's also words where Hebrew uses a letter like yud or vav to kinda, sorta, subtly hint at there being a vowel there. In the first word, we have the letter shin, with a vav attached to it to hint at the vowel there being u, and then a bet at the end with no vowel attached to it, so we get shuv. In the second word, we have the letter mem, with a yud attached to it, which this time hints at the vowel there being i, and then a nun at the end with no vowel, so we get min. Now you might be yelling at the screen right now that, aha, so these Hebrew speakers actually do write their vowels. But don't mix this up. The letters yud and vav aren't vowels, they're still consonants. Have a look at these words. In the first word, the vav at the beginning is a consonant that has an eh vowel attached, and the yud in the middle is a consonant that also has an eh vowel attached. So combined with a vowel-less shin at the end, we get veyesh. In the second word, the gimel at the beginning has an e vowel, and the vav at the end has no vowel, so we get gev. The letters yud and vav are still normal Hebrew letters that represent consonants, at least some of the time. Consider this word. The first yud is a full-on consonant, with an a vowel attached to it. Then there's a mem, and after it is another yud. But that second yud isn't a consonant this time, but rather another one of the vowel hints we saw earlier, so we get yami. The ends of words are prime examples of consonants being used to hint at a vowel's existence. Here, in the first word, we have a resh with an unwritten a vowel, and a pei with an e vowel that we then use yud to hint at, rafi. In the second word, we have a kaf with an unwritten a vowel, then a lamed with an a vowel that we use hey to hint at, kala. In the third word, we have a shin with an unwritten e vowel, and a bet with an a vowel that we use ayin to hint at, sheva. And in the fourth word, we have a kuf with an unwritten a vowel and a resh with an a vowel that we then use aleph to hint at. Kara. Generally, the letter yud hints at the word ending with e or e or a or I. The letter vav hints at it ending with u or o. The letter ain almost always hint at there being an a at the end, and the letters aleph and hey usually hint at either a or e at the end. In the middle of a word, these letters can also sometimes hint at there being a vowel, but it's a bit less consistent. Quite a bit less consistent. Generally, aleph, ain, and hey are still thought of these days as actually representing consonants. A, and h. But these are almost never actually pronounced in conversational speech. So instead we get this weird effect that when you see one of these letters in the middle of a word, you know there's probably two vowels next to each other. Consider these two words. The first one has a resh with an unwritten a vowel, then a bet with no vowel, rav. The second one is resh with an unwritten a vowel, then an ain with an unwritten a vowel, and then a bet with no vowel. So you literally need to say a twice. Rav. If you're the president of the Academy for the Hebrew Language giving a speech to the nation wearing a tuxedo and bow tie and sipping expensive champagne in 1960, then maybe you'll insert ein's actual consonant there and say rav. But these days, in conversation, it's just rav. We can also see a similar thing in this word. The word starts with a mem with an unwritten a vowel, then a hey with an unwritten e vowel, and then a resh with no vowel. Classically, in careful speech in 1940, this would be maher, with an H sound for the hey. But languages change and evolve, and writing systems sometimes don't catch up. So these days, most people subconsciously skip the H sound and just pronounce two vowels right next to each other. Maher. So now, let's combine everything we've learned and look at these two words. The first word starts with a mem that has an unwritten e vowel, then an aleph with an o vowel, and then a vav that's just hinting at that vowel, and finally a daled with no vowel at the end. In careful speech while giving an address to the nation on live TV in 1977, this would be pronounced me'od. But in conversational speech in the year of our Luigi 2024, this would get reduced down to me'od. The second word starts with a resh that has an unwritten e vowel, then an ain with an unwritten e vowel, then a bet with an a vowel, and then a silent hey at the end to hint that there's a vowel after the bet. Again, 1948, important speech, etc., etc., this would be re'eva. But in modern day speech, the r consonant is reduced away and we get re'eva. Sometimes, aleph, ain, and hey will have a vowel attached to them, but have no vowel before them. Consider these words. The first word starts with a nun that has an unwritten a vowel, then a sheen that has no vowel, then an aleph that has an e vowel and a yud that's just there to hint at the e vowel, and then ends with a resh with no vowel. In this case, it is more common for people these days to keep the aleph's actual consonant sound and say nashir, but it's not uncommon for people in the heat of conversation to just say nashir. Same deal with the second word, mem with an unwritten a, daled with no vowel, hey with an e, then a yud to hint at that e, then a mem with no vowel. So we get madhim. But again, it's also not uncommon to hear this pronounced as just madim. But this isn't the whole story. When you're a 6-year-old kid in first grade and you're first learning to read and write, the way you're taught is using not just the letters I showed you, but also using the nikud, the dottings, the vowel marks, which is a thing that we have. These are various little dots and dashes that you put under or around a letter to indicate which vowel comes after it, and very, very rarely which vowel comes before it. When they give you text to read in elementary school, they almost always have vowel markings everywhere. Poetry, too, is generally written with vowel markings. And religious texts, like the Old Testament and stuff, are usually written with vowel markings as well. Sometimes you can also see vowel markings being used sporadically to disambiguate words in contexts where otherwise you'd have no vowel markings, like this album art, where they decided to put an a vowel on the last letter to make sure that the reader, or listener I guess, knows that this is the word etzlecha, and not the word etzlech. There's only 5 vowels in spoken modern Hebrew, but there's 13 or so vowel symbols, because there used to be a bunch more vowels and there used to be a difference between long versus short vowels. But languages change and evolve, and writing systems sometimes don't catch up. So these days, these 13 symbols represent just 5 vowels. And of course, no one ever knows which symbol they need to use where unless they're a giant nerd like me, because no one cares and it's really only elementary school textbooks, poetry, and religious texts that have vowel markings anyway. And that brings me to the third and final question in this mess. How do we know which vowels go where when we read stuff? Sure, sometimes there's hints strewn around the text in the form of aleph, ayin, hey, yud, and vav, but the hints aren't always there, and each one of these letters can hint at more than one vowel. So how do Hebrew speakers know which vowel goes where? The short answer is that sometimes we don't know. But the longer answer is that Hebrew grammar, much like Arabic grammar, lends itself very easily to writing words without the vowel marking training wheels. Look at these words. כותבת, חושבת, לומדת, שומרת, סופרת, גונבת, בוחנת, שוברת. Or these words. כיתב, חישב, לימד, שימר, סיפר, צילם, סידר, חיזק. Or these words. תחשיב, תלמיד, תבחין, תמהיל, תקדים, תכפיף. Or these words. סדיר, חסיד, קביל, טעים, אמיץ, קריא. A lot of Hebrew words arrange themselves by part of speech in these weird rhyming patterns. We have a lot of adjectives in that sadir, chasid, kavil form. We have a lot of nouns in that tachshiv, talmid, davchin form, and a lot of present tense verbs in the lomedet, shomeret, soferet form, and so on and so forth. So when I read a sentence that has an unfamiliar word, sometimes I can venture a relatively good guess as to how it'd be pronounced. There's a lot of these patterns, and there's a lot of words that don't really fit into any pattern, especially words from other languages. But still, the existence of these patterns tends to help us out when we encounter new words. So, to summarize, modern Hebrew has 5 vowels. Generally, vowels aren't written at all in Hebrew, but some vowels are vaguely hinted at through creative use of some letters. And all this is mostly okay because a lot of Hebrew words have predictable vowel patterns. And that's it. And now, just for fun, here are some weird exceptions and edge cases that make the writing system a bit unpredictable sometimes. Roch, ruach, matiu, metav, chet, chata, shva, shav, ez, az, et, at, and guy. Anyway, that's all for now. See you in the next video sometime in the future, maybe. Bye-bye. Hi! I made another video, didn't I? It's been a while. I have a couple more ideas for videos about Hebrew and languages and stuff. So I guess, as they say, if you want to get a notification next time there's a video, you can hit that like button, subscribe button, bell button, whatever button they make up next, and hopefully you'll get a notification. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and take care, and say hi to your folks for me. Bye.